That took a lot. That took a lot. I'll
You
give
spanked them. Spanked them.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Nothing out of you.
Is it sick?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, I will call the meeting to order, and I'm not sure who's going to speak first, and I'll let y'all introduce yourself too and go from there. And we thank y'all for being here too.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Is the mic working? Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor King. I'm David Beatty, and I'm Richland Penny Program. And so I lead a team of about 45 individuals. We all work for about 10 different companies, and we came together over 4 years ago to form called the Program Development Team, or PDT for short. So we're a group of contractors that Richland County hired to manage this program. And so when our contract is done or the program is finished, we move on somewhere else with our respective firms. And so the county has hired about 5 or 6 transportation staff. We employ today about 45 individuals, and we'll increase our staff as we hire more inspectors. So I expect to hire probably about 5 or 7 more inspectors as the work reaches its peak. So that's who I am. So thank you for having us. Kind of go through an overview of the program itself, and then Ben Lewis will go through projects specific to Irmo and predominantly Broad River Widening. Was first presented by Richland County Council to the voters in 2010. It was a 25-year proposal, and it was going to raise about $1 billion. It barely failed at the referendum, and then it passed in 2012. And if we go to the next slide. So the tax is a 22-year tax, or until it raises $1.07 billion. And that's what the state law says, whichever one comes first. So it's a 1% increase for no more than 22 years, or when $1.07 billion is raised. Now it looks like the money is going to come in 17 or 18 years instead of the 22. So good, the tax will end 4 or 5 years earlier than 2035. So the tax started coming in 2030, plus 22 years is 2035. So the tax should end in 2030, 2031, depending on the economy. Of the $1.07 billion, system comment. It goes directly to the and of that $750 million, 32 was designated million $156 million for more roadway specific type projects. Had about 10 broad categories of types of projects. I've listed about 7 or 8 here. It had bikeways, greenways, intersections, some neighborhood improvements, sidewalks, some special. The high dollar is in the widening, but then it also included funds to resurface or repave existing county-owned roads only. And all of them are turning out to be neighborhood subdivision roads. So the DOT owns Highway 60 and 176, so the penny can only be used to repave county-maintained roads, which are subdivision roads. That was $40 million dedicated to that. And then there was another $45 million dedicated broad category. Now the referendum had a specific list of projects. So attachment and seen the list of. So we are not, and council is not adding new projects. So I've explained. As a voter, you knew what you were voting on. This is the list of projects, this is the money, and this is the term. But as the future goes on and needs may change over a 20, council has their hands tied in that they have to finish everything on the list first before they can even consider a new project. So the negative is, if needs change in 10 years, I'm sorry, we can't do a project. So that was the pros and cons of this version of a county-wide sales tax. Well, I'll explain on that front. Potentially, yes. Defined list of projects, 10 broad categories, the criteria on how to rank them, wide, ahead of this widening, etc. So they had we applied it to each of the categories, and we presented to Richland County Council, this is the order of each category that we think you should develop the projects. County Council. And a lot, if not everything that I'm telling you tonight, is on our website at richlandpenny.com. So you could find the ordinance that allowed the referendum, you can find the list of projects, you can find the ranking criteria, you can find how the projects were ranked. So after we ranked all of the projects, 5-year spending plan, if you will, a capital improvement plan. And we've updated that annually as the projects change, as the money changes each year, the money changes a little bit in the amount taken in. So we're developing. Now the PDT, the firm, the team that I work for, we've been under contract since November of 14. So the tax passed in 2012. It didn't start coming in until May of 13. Year and a half staff, and then select our team to get started. So we've really been working and developing the program for about 4 years now. Now, the money to date, $320 million has come in since May through this 1-cent sales tax. About $16 million we've been able to bring in from state or federal money to assist the program. $90 million, and that's they're responsible for it. The county has spent over $12 million acquiring and developing a mitigation bank so that when wetlands and streams are impacted, the county can go to this bank to offset those impacts. Program is a lot of the management that's gone into the program, and then specifically $196 million has been spent on projects, design, buying the right-of-way, and probably the number is $158 million has gone into construction so far. Is richlandpenny.com. We have all of the information available to you. Active map. So you can go to and you can toggle on one of the categories to you. The intersections, all of them on, or be selective. This screenshot shows the green represents the greenways, and the brown represents the road widenings. So if that's what you want to look at and get an idea on what's going on where, and then with your mouse, you can hover over that project, and a small box will come up and give you a little bit more information. Yes, sir?
How are these initial referendum projects chosen?
Good question. How did we even get to 2012? Back in 2006, Richland County Council commissioned a 39-member group, predominantly, well, it was all citizens, but predominantly non-governmental public citizens. They formed a group directed Council to identify the long-term transportation needs of the county. And so this group spent probably 2 or 3 years, and they had a series of public meetings. And this group came back to county council and said, we need bikeways, greenways, sidewalks, widenings. We need an active bus system. So that's what came to council. They massaged it and put it on the ballot in 2010. And then they further massaged it to what passed in 2012. That's the history of the program. So next slide, things that we've got going now. So I'm going to tell you about some active construction, what we've done, and then Ben Lewis is going to talk about the project. This is a big deal out in the northeast, Clemson Road. If you go out I-20, you turn left onto Clemson Road. It's a 5-lane road, which how we talk about a 5-lane road is just like St. Andrews, 2 in each direction, and a middle turn lane is a 5-lane road. Well, Clemson, after Sparkleberry, drops back down to 2 lanes. And for 2 miles, it's 2 lanes. And then before you get to 2-notch, it opens back up to 5. Well, we're widening that 2-mile section from 2 to 5 lanes, and this is what it's going to look like. So a little bit different on Clemson, instead of having and then a sidewalk like on, we're going to have a gutter and then about 5 feet of grass and then a 10-foot wide shared use path. It's still concrete and it looks, but it's to share that. We'll have 2 miles of a. Now Ben will get to Broad River Road in a minute, and due to the right-of-way restrictions, we've got a different typical that we're developing on Broad River. But next slide, we'll talk about, and I'll go a little bit quicker. The greenways, one of the major greenways is along the Saluda River, behind the zoo. Really where 26 ties into 126 is where this greenway begins. To the river, behind the zoo, and it terminates right there where 126 goes over the Broad River Road going into Columbia. So, you know, where everybody hangs out at the rapids and canoes and kayaks and all that, we're going to have the section there is going to be elevated. And most of it is already constructed. So if you drive into 126 and you look off right into the rapids, you can see where we've got this elevated section. We're almost done, should be done in March or April with the entire project. If you've never been down there, it's phenomenal how beautiful it is on the river right next to 126. So when this, we're building a parking lot for 40 cars. It's nowhere near enough. I don't know why it was ever designed for 40 to begin with, probably because of physical constraints. This will be one of the most popular projects in the entire program, in my opinion. The next slide. Shop. Today, Shop Road ends at Pineview. Well, previously the county bought 1,000 acres that used to be the state farmers market, turned it into an industrial park. And so Shop Road Phase 1 is almost completed. It's a 4-lane road, 2 in each direction, with a grass median. Looks like an interstate. It goes for 1 mile over to Longwood, and it's providing access to this industrial park. China Jushi is about to open in a few months and hire, I believe it's around 400 people up front. So as part of the China Jushi to come into the industrial park. Now that project is almost, we're designing Shop Road Extension Phase 2, which will go from Longwood in lower Richland County over to where Trotter ties into Garner's Ferry. So people coming from Sumter are going to be able to turn left at Trotter onto a brand new road and take it all the way to where Shop is today and come into Columbia that way. So that'll take traffic off of Garner's Ferry and put it over on this new roadway and relieve some of the traffic on Pineview and Atlas. So that design is going on. North Main Street is under construction. It's predominantly a streetscape project. It's already 4 lanes without a middle turn lane. We're widening it slightly, new sidewalks. The significant thing is we're burying all of the overhead utilities underground and putting up street lighting. Utilities. The project will be completed in about another year to a year and a half. So North Main Street.
Is that from Elmwood up to 20?
It's actually just past Elmwood to where the city had already streetscaped it to Anthony, right at River Drive. And then it's going to go to Columbia College. Then there was a piece already done from Columbia College up to Fairfield. So that's where it'll end. So our piece is really from Columbia College coming back this way towards Anthony Drive near River.
So that's in the city of Columbia, right?
Yes, correct. Yes, sir. Of North Main, this piece in the future, there will be no wooden utility poles. The only thing that you'll see is street lights. Significant cost, depending on the utilities, $3 to $5 million per mile to bury the utilities. That's got nothing to do with widening the road, just $3 to $5 million per mile for the utilities. The program has 56 separate locations of sidewalk improvements. So we're most of the way through with like I mentioned earlier, a big portion of the program, $40 million, is repaving neighborhood roads. And just an easy question, when's the last time your subdivision road got repaved? I'm sure it's been a long time if you've been in your neighborhood for very long at all. So this program, we've already paved, we've completed, and we're under contract for a total of 400 roads to date. And that's spending about 28 of the 40 million. So we expect to do another 300 neighborhood roads. Yes, sir. Okay. I'm not certain exactly, but I may be able to answer your question with what we did is we physically drove all of the county-owned roads, which at the time was 555 miles. We had a special truck, drove all of the roads, and we mapped them, cracks, potholes, the condition of the pavement. We prepared a report where we ranked. Now, 555 miles is 10,000 separate roads because we count a cul-de-sac as a separate road. Then what we did is we gave every road segment a numerical value based on its condition. 100 is a brand new road. 0 is a failure. We ranked all of the roads in the county, and we're going from the worst towards the best. And so going from 0 to 100, with 100 being the best, working up from 0, we're going to get up to around the 50s. So we'll get we won't get halfway through the entire county's road list, but we'll get a quarter to a third of the way through. This just shows neighborhoods we take up the outside 6 feet, and then we repave that 6 feet and all of the rest across the road. And that way the water still gets into the gutter pan is why we mill just the outside. So this is just it's been completed. It's hard to explain to most people how long it takes to develop a project. It can take 3 to 4 years before we ever start construction. By the time we design it, buy the right-of-way, move the utilities, have all the public involvement, get all of our environmental permits. So it takes 3 to 4 years to develop a big project. Well, we've completed Bluff Road Phase 1, which is really next to the fairgrounds from Rosewood, used to be Jayco's Bar at the corner of Rosewood, to the other end of the fairgrounds at George Rogers. That project, we buried the utilities, we added a middle turn lane, we added a 10-foot sidewalk next to the fairgrounds. If anyone ever remembers parking and going to the fair or the ball game, you had to walk in a ditch between the road and the fairgrounds fence. Well, we've accommodated that with a 10-foot sidewalk now. I'll go a little bit quicker. Green Street and Lincoln next to the Colonial Life Arena has been greatly beautified. It better accommodates pedestrians and bicyclists. It's created a raised surface as you cross that. There's granite pavers, so it's a safer intersection, but it's also a destination for the city, the county, and USC. So that project is complete. A project that we're working on is, as you look at the screen to the top left, today Green Street dead ends at the railroad. There's a railroad ditch, and then Green Street picks up on the other side and goes to UG. In May of this year, we're going to advertise for construction to build a new bridge over that railroad. And so we'll take Green Street, the Colonial Life Arena, railroad bridge to UG Street, where we'll put in a new light and we'll stub out a future extension of green into that huge undeveloped tract of land. So we should go to construction on that bridge. You'll see dirt moved late summer, but we'll advertise for, we're targeting mid to late May. So next slide, what else have we gotten done? Ben will talk about it at Kennerly Coogler. We've completed some. The referendum had 15 separate intersections included program-wide. 8 of the 15 are complete. 4 will go to construction in 2019, and 1 will go to construction in 2020, and that will take care of all 15 intersections. Next slide. A couple of more intersections that we've done: Broad River Road at Rushmore, North Springs at Risdon. Next slide, please. North Springs, Clemson, Rame, out by the village at Sandhills area. Farrell Road at Pisgah. Another, in Finley Park, we constructed an extension of what the city calls the Vista Greenway. We called it the Lincoln Greenway. Get on an old railroad bed and head over towards Elmwood. So where 126 changes names into Elmwood, and there's a bridge that kind of goes in, and then you come down grade, this greenway begins underneath that bridge. There's parking. So if you live in the neighborhood, you could walk there. You could park your car there, or ride your bike to Finley. You could cross Taylor Street and then stay on the greenway to Blue Marlin is where the greenway ends today. So this piece extended that greenway. Next, please. Riverbank Zoo. The zoo now has purchased all of the property between the railroad tracks and 126. And so a lot of the parking is going to be over there now and in the future. Well, you have to cross those railroad tracks to walk into the zoo. Theoretically, if a train stopped there, you could be stuck in the zoo. So this pedestrian bridge that goes from the parking lot up and over the railroad tracks. So it's been completed. It's a year and a half now. So that was a part of the Richland Penny program, was to construct this pedestrian. A couple of other sidewalk projects, which is, most of you probably know, to the general somewhere over here isn't very important unless you live over here and you're walking or pushing a child. A sidewalk is very important to you. 6 sidewalks, we've completed about 45 to 48. And so we're working on the remaining ones now. What I'm going to do now is turn it over to Ben Lewis. Ben is a registered professional engineer, graduated from the Citadel, and he's been working with us on this program from day one. And one of the projects that he's personally managing is the Broad River Road widening. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ben.
Thank you, David. I think I have my mic on. Yep.
As you can see here on this slide, these are the District 1. So this includes the town of Irmo, Ballantyne, Chapin, some of your rural areas. These are all of our active or completed jobs. So obviously this district got one widening, and that's the Broad River Road widening job. At the latter part of my part of the presentation, I'll discuss the specifics of Broad River. You had one major intersection, which is Kennerly Coogler, which is the picture of the roundabout there, which is kind of one of my favorite things in design. I like roundabouts. Sidewalks and bikeways, all of them in our program were really specific to Broad River Road in that area. Roadway resurfacings, we've completed 59, and there are 37 left that are in the construction phase, or we're getting ready to procure those. Then also the Broad River corridor improvements. This is a job that includes all kind of things: sidewalks, intersection improvements, some landscaping, lighting. But really the big part of this design are 3 intersections at Greystone, Bush River, and St. Andrews Road. Next slide, please. This is kind of my new baby in the program, and that's the dirt road paving program. We're proud to say that we're finally getting these things moving. County Council handed these over to us a few months ago. This slide here actually shows you the dirt roads that are either active, completed, or coming up, all in District 1. So completed projects, that means all the pavement is done, the contractor's out of the way, 6. In construction now or about to be let within the next 2 to 3 months, 8. In design and rights of way, we have 5. And that leaves only 11 more projects in District 1 to start development. Next slide.
I know on that list you have Eastview Drive.
Yeah, I was actually talking with them. I actually had a status meeting with the county today on the dirt road program, where I go through basically every single road, and they want to know what the status is. Eastview Road is one we're looking to move forward as soon as we can. I believe there may be 1 or 2 right-of-way holdouts, but that's something internally we're going to look to secure that ourselves through the PDT. We have signed plans, we have permits. That's all we're lacking, so we'll do what we can to get it paved as quick as we can.
At one time, part of the problem was that little house in the corner and the curb cut and the space on Lake Murray. Was it big enough or wide enough or whatever? Is that part of the...
Without actually looking at the plans, I mean, we have 100-something roads. It's hard for me to really know at this moment what the issue is at Eastview. But I told Mr. Klein I'd definitely give them a status tomorrow on where we are with it. Here you go. This is kind of a close-up picture of the finished view. They've gone in and finished all the landscaping in the inscribed circle of the roundabout at Kennerly Coogler. So that's a nice shot. Next slide. So this is what I'm sure a lot of people are here to hear about, where we are with the Broad River Road widening project, what it is, what we're doing. As you can see in this map, the beginning of the project, and all this is per the referendum, we're starting at Royal Tower Drive. That's kind of where the existing 5-lane section ends today. So we'll pick that up at Royal Tower, and we'll take that all the way to the split at Dutch Fork, and where Broad River Road goes off to I-26. Next slide. So Broad River Road was ranked number 10 of the 14 widenings in the program. Myself and 3 other PMs, we handle all of the roadway and intersection, bikeways, sidewalk projects in the program. So I am the project manager for the Broad River Road widening project. It's approximately 2.5 miles of improvements. This is a little data on the traffic. It has about 22,500 cars passing through there on a daily basis, and that was roughly 2 years ago. In our design year, which we're projecting is 2043, you see an increase to about 34,500. That's a lot of cars to go through a 2-lane road. Obviously, we've seen a lot of high vehicular accidents. Most of those are rear end or angles, which leads us to believe that there are safety issues out there, and obviously we know there's operational issues. If you go anytime in the morning and afternoon, you will see traffic backups. And their current cost estimate for this is around $40 million today. So that includes all the design, construction, utility, relocation, rights of way.
Next slide. As David was showing you earlier, the Clemson Road typical, this one is very similar but a little bit different. It's still a 5-lane roadway section, so you have 2 lanes in each direction with a flush median for 2-way left turns. But for Clemson Road, we were putting the bicycles outside of the pavement. On this project, the bicycles are actually going to be in their own striped section on the outside of the travel lane with sidewalks adjacent to that. The ditch sections on Broad River Road widening, or on Broad River Road today, will go away. This will be an all curb section, so the drainage will be underneath the curbing and the sidewalks. So it'll be a closed system. And as you can see, it's about 85 feet wide. So we'll be acquiring approximately a 100-foot corridor of new right-of-way in that area, although there is about 33 foot on either side, or about 66 foot total today. Next slide. So what have we done to date? This slide gives you a bulleted list of all of the activities that we have done from day one when we started development of this project back in 2017. Obviously, you can see we've done traffic counts and traffic studies. All the field surveys are done, but as you know, field surveys do continue throughout a job, so you probably will see some out there in the future. Utility surveys, if you saw flaggings or paint markings on the ground, that's what that was. That was done many months ago. Geotechnical studies, so that they're out there popping bore holes in the ground, getting pavement cores. All that's for our engineering studies to move the project along. Jurisdictional determinations, we have a wetland at Moccasin Branch right at the beginning of the job. Cultural resource studies, we have found there is a national historic site, the Jacob Calhoun property right there at Coon Road. That is an NRHP site, so we need to stay off of it. Hazardous material studies, that's what we call a Phase 1 ESA. So if there's ever been a gas station or any DHEC reports on a property, we need to know about it because we can't acquire properties that have been contaminated. Or we can't acquire them in the normal process. Pavement evaluation and design, that's something we're working on currently. We've held one public meeting, and we will have another one before we finish this project. The preliminary roadway design is complete. The value engineering of that preliminary design is complete, and we're currently moving forward with the alignments changes from those studies, the intersection changes from the studies. We're always doing cost evaluations. We evaluate the cost at every different phase of the project. We are currently at the one that's called the rights-of-way roadway design. That's where we are at today. And then obviously utility coordination and SCDOT coordination, those start from the beginning all the way to the end. Next slide.
Is this a county road or?
No, Broad River Road is all DOT, so we have to follow their rules and regulations and build it to their standards. Yep. So
It's your plan. It's your plan that you're following.
Correct.
You're designing the plan.
We design it, but we have to follow their design standards because it's their road. They will take over ownership when it's complete.
Right, but they have to approve your plans for the road.
They sure do. And they look at it multiple times during the process. And that's any project. That's not just Broad River. Yep. So this slide actually shows you kind of a typical project development process. Obviously, we start by gathering all of our data. And then once we get that data, we compile that into all of our studies. Then we go straight into preliminary design and the plans. Then we go in and we verify that design, and we do any value engineering that may be necessary. And for Broad River Road, we definitely did a lot of value engineering because we wanted to make sure we were impacting the least amount of people at the least price. And the bold and the bigger text there is what shows you the rights-of-way plans and acquisitions. That's the stage we are at now. No acquisitions have started to date, but they are coming in this calendar year. And then once we get those acquisitions complete, we will finalize our construction design and plans, and then we'll move it forward to project letting, which is construction. Next slide. So what are the challenges? As you all know, we have high peak traffic volumes in this area. A lot of the intersections have failing traffic movements. Royal Tower is one of them, which is actually getting a traffic signal in the future. which will be nice to those residents. Existing and current development in the area. We all know that private development is always coming along these roads, so that's a challenge when we're designing. Right-of-way impacts, we're always looking at ways that we can reduce impacts to adjacent businesses, adjacent residences. Geometry and intersection modifications. You can take Woodrow Street, for example, where it ties into Broad River Road at an extremely acute angle today. We're fixing that with this project. And utility coordination and utility relocations. This is kind of one of those things you don't really think about because you don't see them because they're under the ground. But every project has to deal with it, and on a widening project, we have to deal with big water lines and big sewer lines and lots of communication lines. So that's something that happens behind the scenes that I coordinate with our utility coordinator. Next slide. And the project schedule, which everybody is always interested in, and I don't blame you. We look to begin rights-of-way acquisitions in the third quarter of this year. And currently, our estimated duration of those acquisitions is 2 years. We're pretty sure we're going to have at least one relocation on the project, and that's the McLaughlin's deli site there at Coon Road. I've actually personally spoken to the owner there multiple times. He's already vacated the store. But we're actually having to shift our widening toward his store because of the historic site on the other side of the road that we must stay off of. So with a 2-year duration starting in 2019, that would put construction starting in 2021. And that obviously that is a conservative estimation, assuming 2 years with right-of-way. The right-of-way could go faster, and we hope it does. And then once construction starts, we assume that's probably a 24 to 30-month process, because you got to remember the utilities have to start first, and so the contractor really can't get busy until all of the utilities are out of the way. So that's assuming the utilities and the contractor doing his grading, doing his asphalt. That's all together in that number. Next slide. So I believe this is the actual end of our program, and I'll hand it over to David.
I've got a couple of items that I may need you to help me answer, Ben. I wanted to, before we go into Q&A, and we'll stay as long as you would like us to. I want to tell you that. We are more than glad to do other speaking presentations. So if you have an HOA, a Rotary Club, or a Sunday school you'd like for us to come to, all you have to do is let us know. So we'll be glad to speak again at any other event. I failed to mention that every month we summarize the entire program, and we prepare, it's about a 30-page report. We call it a monthly progress report. It's on our website at richlandpenny.com. So every month you can grab it and you can look what's been done and what are they working on. And we've got every monthly report. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. This is a version. This is the October 18 report. We do have the December 18 report. And so it's got all of our projects. It's got a project sheet on each one. Tells you the money. It tells you the status of the project. And you can go back for about 3.5 years and see each monthly report, how it's been updated. I want to talk a little bit more when we come back for the public meeting on Broad River Road widening. That'll be our second meeting. We'll have the right-of-way plans. What we mean by that is we have to complete the plans through about 70% of the final plans to know what are the right-of-way impacts going to be. How much new right-of-way does the project need to acquire? So we will come back late summer, early fall. Is that fair, Ben? And we'll have a very formal public meeting. We'll have the boards put up. It'll be a drop-in format, so it won't be a speech like this. And the public can come and look exactly at the property, and we can say, yes, Mr. John Doe, this is your property, and this is the impacts, and this is how much property that the project is going to need from you. So we'll be coming back, and I would invite all of you, and I would ask you to attend that public meeting and help inform the public. So that'll be late summer, early fall. At that time, we'll explain to the public the process of how does the government acquire property. So we'll go through that process, and we'll explain to anybody that's interested how that works. So I wanted to make sure that we touched on that. I can't think of anything else that we needed to present, Ben. Anything that I've missed or you want to touch on?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I've got a handout for anyone that's not grabbed one yet. It's just an easy one page. We kind of update it quarterly, just something easy to take. The overall status of the program. So if I failed to give you one, I've got a ton right here. And everything that we said tonight you can pretty much get from richlandpenny.com. So with that, I'll defer to Mr. Brown to tell us when to hush, but we'll be here as late as you'd like, and we'll open the floor to questions.
Yes, sir.
You said several times that you had the preliminary designs for Broad River widening done. Do you have the plans here? Do you have the?
I do not have them, but we could definitely provide them to you. We have them in an electronic format. They could be provided to you.
Can you email it to me or the council, Bob Brown?
Due to their size, we'd have to put them on an FTP, but we could send you that link and you can download them yourselves. Yep, sure can.
One thing I would like to ask Ben, because he's more knowledgeable of the details than me, Ben, what are the big improvements that are going to be done at Woodrow, maybe at the Split, at the Chick-fil-A? Can you explain the major changes?
So obviously at Woodrow, with that extreme acute angle we have there today, Broad River Road itself will be a 5-lane section. We'll be making turning lane improvements on Woodrow, but we're going to have to swing that road out some and bring it back in we're not going to be coming in at a 90-degree angle, but it'll be more like a 70 to 75-degree angle. So we'll be skirting the DOT standards as much as we can there, but as safe as we can, because obviously there is a house between Woodrow and Broad River Road. We don't want to have to acquire that house to relocate that intersection. So that's what we're doing at Woodrow. Coon Road, it's going to be getting some major turn lane improvements as well. It has a signal there today. That signal will be the timings will be optimized. I did speak on Royal Tower Road. We'll be getting a signal. It doesn't have one today. And then at Dutch Fork at the Split, the original referendum had Broad River Road going all the way to I-26. And when we studied that and saw the traffic, we saw that was kind of not really necessary. But then due to cost, we'd like to go all the way across to the bridge and go over to Ballantyne. But to do that, you'd have to widen the bridge. And due to cost, there's just no way we could do that. It would take probably another $11 to $15 million to do that. So we have to find a logical termini, and that's the Split at Dutch Fork Road. So at Dutch Fork Road, we'll be doing some slight realignments there and obviously some turn lane improvements and signals.
Yes, sir.
In regards to the two schools, the Green Charter School on Broad River and Dutch Fork Elementary, are you doing anything special there to alleviate morning and afternoon traffic when they're arriving and departing from school?
Not for those two sites specifically. I mean, obviously we designed for peak movements, and for a school is typically in the morning and the afternoon. So yeah, we don't specifically look at a site-specific area. We look at what it's doing along the road. But obviously took traffic counts when those schools were in. So that's incorporated into our traffic studies already.
And I presume that intersection at Woodrow will accommodate a better left turn from Broad River to Woodrow.
Oh, yes. Yep. Correct. So yes, the left turn from Broad River onto Woodrow will be much easier in the future. Yeah.
But we are not specifically adding a right turn lane into the schools or anything like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, but we're not.
Yeah, it's gonna. So we intend for it to go all the way to Shady Grove and just tie into that signal, and then to the other one, to the Walmart's entrance on Dutch Fork. Stop at those 2 points as close as we can. Yep, that's the intent.
Are we really improving Shady Grove any?
No.
Okay.
I would have two questions. One, and this might be, but as far as repaving a road in the neighborhood, a 2-lane, building it, everything, you gave an estimate of $35 million per mile of area. Is there an estimate of what it costs to repave a road in the neighborhood, a 2-lane road?
Yes. That number is about $250,000 per mile. Now, that's not a great analogy because most neighborhood roads aren't a quarter of a mile, but that's a good number that is easy to remember. So $250,000 per mile to repave a two-lane road. Got to make sure it's a two-lane road. $250,000 a mile for a two-lane road.
And the other question I want to ask, and this may be when we get the plans and all like that, but from Royal Tower up to, say, the Woodrow intersection, there's a lot of distances on that road. You're going to do the 85-foot plus, I think you said some more, so maybe 100 or something. When that affects those businesses, it affects those businesses when they decide they got to move.
Sure.
They do something and then that building's sitting back there and then nobody can move in because there's no parking. And I know y'all compensate them for, I guess, the square foot of land, but y'all compensate them for the land and the loss of value of that property because now it doesn't have adequate parking or whatever?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. It happens very similar to when you buy or sell your own home. We have an independent appraiser. They get paid per appraisal, so they have no interest in if it's high or low. They get paid a flat fee. They come out just like when you have your home appraised. They appraise the property today. Then they take our plans and they say, wow, you're losing half of your parking. And then they give that an appraisal. And then the offer is the difference so that the owner is made whole. His property was worth $100,000 before. After it's going to be worth $80,000, the offer is $20,000. Now then, if he accepts the offer, or he or she, then the deal is done. If the property owner doesn't accept the deal, then that's where the government can use the law of eminent domain, condemn the property, which gives the government access to the property, and the money that has been offered to that property owner goes into an escrowed bank account. And that property owner can use that money to pay his legal fees. And at that point, per the U.S. Constitution, the Fifth Amendment, we go into a jury trial. So the property owner can say, you know, my property's worth $1 million, and the government says it's only worth $100,000. The property owner can hire his lawyers, his consultants, his architects, and go to trial. And a jury determines the final award. So that, not to be too much of a history buff, but that's part of the Fifth Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, the law of eminent domain. So that's how the process would work. So yes, sir, we would compensate that business owner for the lost value of their business.
And is there a way that we can get, and I don't say how much they get, but a list of all those properties? For instance, what I'm thinking is we have a corner up here on Lake Murray with the Coogler property, and the road got widened, it lost whatever. And then over the years, as he's wanted to fix the property up and rent it, it was not rentable because it didn't have adequate parking. And so that bank sitting vacant. Things going on there. But I don't want to see a whole row of businesses on Broad River, and all of a sudden they move out because they want to, they want to rent the building, nobody can rent it, and now the building is dilapidated and falling apart. But if we could get a list so that we know we got to work with these people somehow to allow them to continue to operate their business or future.
The set of plans that Ben is going to make available to you and email you, with 100% being final construction plans, he's going to provide plans that are about 30 to 35%. Now, we're working towards 70%, which is what we'll come to the public with in late summer. Those plans will show the current property owner, how much his property is, where the new right-of-way is going to be, and how much needs to be acquired from them. It will not have any dollar values, but it will show what it looks like, what's it going to look like, how much it is. So that will be public information, and we'll certainly give you those plans as well. Then as we go through the right-of-way acquisition process, the final numbers do become public. So it'll be a public record of how much Richland County had to pay for this particular property. But there will be instances, just like when Highway 60 was widened 20 years ago, where we're trying to minimize how much right-of-way we buy, but there will be impacts, and there's just no way we can get around impacting the local community when we widen a road.
And we've done our due diligence moving forward already. I mean, a lot of the business owners know that this project's coming. They contact me. That's kind of what some of this value engineering we've done. As you're coming off Royal Tower, those first like 6 businesses on your left, we were impacting every single one of their parking spaces. Well, we've been able to shift the road a little bit to the right to stay off of them completely. And then obviously you get a little bit farther down, you have the law office, the pediatric office. We are impacting their parking slightly, but we've been able to pull it in from what we did have at the 30% plans. So these plans I'm sending you have been changed, so they're not accurate as to what we've done recently. So we don't want anybody to get upset when they see these. Yeah, they'll change again, and they'll have reduced right-of-way, reduced impacts.
Which is why this typical section of having a 4-foot bike lane outside the vehicles and then your curb and gutter and your sidewalk is narrower than what we're building on Clemson Road, where we've got a 10-foot sidewalk behind a grass buffer. Out there, we had more right-of-way, less businesses to impact. Here, we've squeezed it in, but we're still accommodating bicycles and pedestrians. Yes, sir?
Will the improvements go back to the interstate?
They will not. They will start at Royal Tower.
Because there's a lane, if you're going from Royal Tower to the interstate, right in front of the Burger King.
Mhm.
That lane used to be, it still says right turn only, but there were barriers, and they're gone. And there's a dotted line across indicating that you can go straight across there. And we've had a couple of fender benders there recently.
Okay.
Is that in your plan, or is that recommended or anything, or is it DOT's problem?
I mean, currently, yeah, that would be a DOT problem, but yeah, we can definitely look at that moving forward. But I mean, that is currently outside of our project area, so yeah, we wouldn't be doing any paving all the way up to the ramps. That's correct. Yeah, but yeah, we can definitely take a look at that to see how that might, if that's an operational issue or a safety issue, as we move forward. But DOT should be addressing anything like that at this time.
Yes, sir.
Do you have an estimate of how many properties would be impacted right away?
Not having the plans right here in front of me, off the top of my head, close to between 80 and 100 maybe.
That would be residential and business.
Correct. Yep.
So what we'll have to do is contact all 80 to 100, appraise, a review appraisal. We contact them 15 or 20 times, compensate them, record it down at the courthouse, 80 to 100 times just on this one project. So that's a big component of what we do, is this whole right-of-way process.
And y'all had mentioned the deal McLaughlin's up on the corner. So are they buying land behind there?
No, I think he's retiring, to tell you the truth. Yeah. So I'm not sure what he's planning to do with that site. All I know is that we will have to pay him as a relocation for that site. So I'm not sure what he's planning to do personally with it. Correct. And he actually called me today and left me a voicemail.
And I'll be glad to stick around if you want to talk about any other subjects with the program. But this program has been in the news for 4 years. There's been, some folks claim there's been controversy. I'll be glad to address any of those things, what you've read or heard. I'll be glad to address those. If you want to ask them publicly or one-on-one, I'll be glad to answer any question you may have. Yes, sir?
The money's good, you're going forward with the project. There's not any chance of that backing out, especially the widening, widening.
Well, everything we do is approved by Richland County Council. Earlier I told you The roadway portion is about $750 million. And that number is fixed. Well, as time goes by, prices go up. So what we're trying to do is get everything developed as quickly as possible before prices keep going up. Every quarter, every 3 months, we update the entire program cost and provide that to council, and we make it public, what the cost is. The costs are continuing to rise. So we're trying to look for ways to stay within the original amount because we can't spend more than the $750 million in total. So I would expect this in the next quarter, the next 6 months, we're going to have another long meeting with county council, and where I'm going to present, with Ben's help, the status of the whole program. And I do not expect Broad River Road to be shortened any or to be reprioritized. So just because I'm saying it, I don't want you to think that it may happen, but I'm trying to answer your question fully. County council can choose to do what they want with reprioritizing projects, or if I tell them we need to find another $50 million, theoretically, we could shorten Broad River Road back to Coon. That is a logical termini where the traffic drops off. We don't want to do that, and we don't advocate that. But I'm trying to be honest with you. If something had to give, that is something that makes traffic sense as there's a drop-off at Coon. But we'd also be addressing these same issues on every other project in the program. So one project wouldn't be isolated. What we would do is give county council the facts and give them options if there's any changes that need made. So as a lot of you know very well, you should stay in contact with your elected officials to let them know what's important to you. And I know I'm preaching to the choir.
Okay, and engineering-wise, on Broad River between Royal and Road,
Okay.
actually it's right, I think it's right across where the green charter school is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a drainage pipe under there that goes across, that takes water from Friar Street.
Okay.
And I believe the pipe is smaller underneath Broad River than going into the drainage. My question is this a DOT question to widen that pipe underneath Broad River while y'all are tearing the road up?
If it's on Broad River Road today, it's part of our project.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be part of our hydraulic studies. Is can it handle the flows today? Can it handle the future flows? And if it can't, obviously it had to be upsized. So yeah, that would be part of our project. And I mean, I don't have the plans with me today to really, but yeah, that would be part of I mean, we basically take ownership of the project while we're designing it, and before we hand it back off, it's ours.
So the answer is yes,
Yes.
we will, and we will take care of that crossing.
All right, so when I get the plans and we actually start looking at them, if I can identify that
Sure.
particular drainage pipe and
Now, the plans at 30% level, we don't do hydraulic design, so you won't see a new cross line there. But yeah, if you know where some are today and you know where issues are, like drainage issues, yeah, go ahead and point them out. That's good for us to pass along to our engineers who do that part of the design.
The meeting y'all have later this year, is it going to be at Dutchport Elementary again with the last one, or is it going to be here or wherever you?
We haven't decided yet, but so we definitely might have it somewhere else.
I would imagine this room may almost be too small.
Correct. Yeah.
So I would hope to do it back at the Dutch Fork Elementary so people would be familiar with it. That would be our preference. Please let us come back again. If you've got another group you'd like us to speak at, just let us know.
Continue the question, but we need to adjourn the meeting. Motion.
So is there a motion